The stars had never looked so threatening. Captain Taeyang Yoon stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, staring at the display screen that showed the edge of Earth's solar system. The view was peaceful now, but intelligence reports said that would change very soon. The Vorath Empire was coming, and they were bringing their entire Obsidian fleet. Taeyang was only 32 years old, young for a starship captain. His dark hair was cut short in military fashion, and his eyes carried the weight of responsibility that few humans had ever known. He commanded the only warship humanity had ever built. Not the only warship in the fleet, the only warship that existed. "Captain, we're receiving updated scans from the outer probes," said Lieutenant Minho Choi from the weapons station. Minho was a sharp-minded officer with quick reflexes and a talent for tactical thinking. He had trained for 5 years on weapons systems that had never been tested in real combat. "Show me," Taeyang said. The main screen changed. What appeared made even Minho go silent. The probes had detected the Vorath fleet at the edge of the system. There were so many ships that they blocked out the stars behind them. The computer started counting. 1,000 ships, 5,000, 10,000. The number kept climbing. 50,000 vessels, Minho finally said, his voice quiet. All battleships. Most of them are bigger than anything we've ever built. Taeyang felt his stomach tighten, but he kept his face calm. His crew needed to see strength right now, not fear. "They really don't like being told no," said a voice from behind him. Chief Engineer Hannah Park walked onto the bridge, wiping grease from her hands. She had been working in the engine room for 18 hours straight, making final adjustments to systems that had never been fully tested. Hannah was brilliant. At 28, she had designed most of the Defiant's experimental technology. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and she had dark circles under her eyes from lack of sleep. But her mind was still sharp. "How are the engines?" Taeyang asked her. "The slip drive is ready," she said. "I think. We've never actually used it in combat conditions. It might work perfectly, or it might tear the ship apart. 50-50 chance, really." "That's encouraging," Minho muttered. Dr. Sora Kim entered the bridge next, carrying a data tablet. Sora was the ship's quantum physicist, a woman in her mid-30s who understood the science behind their weapons better than anyone alive. She looked worried. "I've been analyzing the Vorath fleet composition," Sora said. "Their ships are all connected through a quantum network. They share targeting data, power distribution, everything. It makes them incredibly coordinated." "Can we use that against them?" Taeyang asked. "Maybe," Sora said. "But we'd need to get close to their command ship. Very close." The communications system beeped. A message was coming through on all frequencies. Taeyang nodded to Minho, who put it on the main screen. A face appeared. It was not human. High Commander Vrexus of the Vorath Empire looked like a nightmare made real. His skin was dark purple and covered in ridges of bone. His eyes glowed red, and when he spoke, his voice was deep and filled with contempt. "Humans of Earth," Vrexus said, "you have 1 cycle to surrender your planet to the Vorath Empire. Submit to our rule or we will destroy every ship, every station, every city on your world. You cannot win. You cannot even slow us down. Accept the mercy we offer, or accept extinction." The message ended. The bridge was silent. Taeyang looked at his crew. There were 247 people on the Defiant. Most of them were young, like him. They had trained for years, hoping they would never have to fight. But the Vorath had found Earth 30 years ago, and they had given humanity a choice: serve or die. Earth's leaders had chosen to resist. Now the bill had come due. "Communications," Taeyang said. "Connect me to Earth Command." A moment later, Admiral Boram Lee appeared on a smaller screen. The Admiral was an old man with gray hair and tired eyes. He looked like he had not slept in days. "Captain Yoon," the Admiral said, "you've seen the fleet?" "Yes, sir. 50,000 ships. We're somewhat outnumbered. The Admiral smiled, but there was no humor in it. Earth Command is ordering full evacuation of the outer colonies. We're moving every civilian we can to the deep space stations. But we need time. Taeyang understood what the Admiral was really saying. You need us to delay them. The Defiant is our only military ship, Admiral Lee said. I'm asking you to buy us as much time as you can. Even an hour would save millions of lives. Understood, sir. Captain, the Admiral said, his voice softer now. No one expects you to win this fight. We're not asking you to die for nothing. If you can delay them at all, you'll be heroes. If you can't, well, you're free to run. No one would blame you. Taeyang looked around his bridge. Hana stood by the engineering station, her arms crossed. Minho sat at weapons, his hands resting on controls he had trained with 1,000 times. Sora held her data tablet, her mind probably already working on solutions to impossible problems. We're not running, sir, Taeyang said. The Admiral nodded slowly. I know. Good luck, Captain. Earth is counting on you. The connection ended. Taeyang turned to face his crew. More officers had gathered on the bridge now, all of them watching him, waiting for orders, waiting to hear what he would say. Listen carefully, Taeyang said, his voice carrying through the bridge. In a few hours, the Vorath fleet will reach Earth. They're bringing 50,000 warships to crush one planet that dared to say no to them. Earth Command is evacuating civilians, but they need time. We're going to give them that time. He paused, looking at each face. I'm going to be honest with you. The odds are terrible. We're one ship against an entire fleet. Most likely we're going to die out there. So I'm giving everyone a choice. If you want to leave, take an escape pod now. Get to safety. No one will think less of you. The bridge was silent. No one moved. Anyone? Taeyang asked. Hana spoke first. Sir, with respect, I spent 5 years building this ship. I want to see what she can do. I trained my whole life for this, Minho added. I'm not leaving now. Sora nodded. We have technology the Vorath have never seen. We might surprise them. One by one, every officer on the bridge spoke up. Not a single person chose to leave. Taeyang felt pride swell in his chest. These people were the best humanity had to offer. If this was going to be their last stand, at least they would make it memorable. Very well, he said. All hands, battle stations. Hana, power up the slip drive. Minho, ready all weapons. Sora, I want continuous scans of that fleet. Find me any weakness you can. The crew moved with purpose, each person taking their position. The Defiant hummed to life around them, experimental systems activating one by one. The ship was small compared to the Vorath battleships, but it was filled with human innovation and human courage. Taeyang sat in the captain's chair and looked at the screen showing the approaching fleet. 50,000 ships. Impossible odds. Take us out, he ordered. Let's go meet them. The Defiant turned toward the enemy and accelerated into the darkness. One small ship against an empire. The battle was about to begin. The Obsidian fleet moved through space like a black tide. 50,000 warships in perfect formation, each one a monument to the Vorath Empire's power. They had conquered 1,000 worlds with forces far smaller than this. Earth would fall in hours, maybe minutes. High Commander Vrexus sat on his command throne aboard the Annihilator, the flagship of the fleet. The ship was 15 kilometers long, covered in weapons that could burn entire continents. Around him, Vorath officers worked at their stations, efficient and precise. They had done this many times before. Status report, Vrexus commanded. All ships in position. Commander, his tactical officer replied, we have reached the outer boundary of the human home system. No resistance detected. Vrexus laughed, a deep rumbling sound. Of course there is no resistance. The humans know they cannot win. They will surrender, and we will add another primitive species to the empire. He had lived for over 1,000 years and commanded fleets in hundreds of battles. Not once had he been defeated. These humans would be no different. "Commander," another officer said, "we are detecting one ship, small vessel, approaching our position." "One ship?" Vrexis leaned forward. "What type?" "Unknown class. Our database has no match. It appears to be some kind of human military vessel." Vrexis studied the image on his screen. The human ship was tiny compared to his battleships. It looked fragile, almost delicate. He felt insulted. "They send one ship against my entire fleet?" He stood from his throne. "This is meant to mock me. They think they can delay us with this pathetic gesture?" "Should we destroy it, Commander?" "No," Vrexis said slowly. An idea formed in his mind. "I want the entire galaxy to see what happens to species who defy the Empire. Deploy 100 ships to engage the human vessel. Broadcast the battle on all frequencies. Let every world see how easily we crush human defiance." On the Defiance Bridge, alarms were sounding. 100 ships breaking formation," Minho reported. "They're heading straight for us." Taiyang watched the enemy vessels approaching. Each one was at least 20 times larger than the Defiant. They moved slowly, confidently. They did not see the Defiant as a threat. "They're playing with us," Hana said from engineering. "They could send the whole fleet, but they want to make a show of this." "Then let's give them a show they'll never forget," Taiyang said. "Hana, activate the slip drive. Minho, prepare quantum weapons. Wait for my mark." The Defiant accelerated toward the incoming Vorath ships. The distance closed rapidly, 500 kilometers, 300, 100. "They're opening fire," Minho said. Energy beams lanced through space, bright enough to blind. Missiles streaked toward the Defiant, each one carrying enough explosive power to destroy a city. The Vorath expected the human ship to die in the first volley. "Now!" Taiyang shouted. Hana activated the slip drive. Reality seemed to shiver around the Defiant. The ship phased slightly out of normal space, existing in two places at once. The Vorath weapons passed through empty space where the Defiant had been a microsecond before. Every beam missed. Every missile flew past harmlessly. On the Annihilator, Vrexis stared in disbelief. "What happened? Why did our weapons miss?" "Unknown, Commander. The human ship is doing something to our targeting systems. It's moving in ways that should not be possible." "Then fire more weapons! Saturate the area! They cannot dodge everything!" But the Defiant did dodge everything. Hana worked the slip drive controls like a musical instrument, phasing the ship in and out of reality with perfect timing. Vorath weapons filled the space around them, but not a single shot connected. "Their turn," Taiyang said. "Minho, fire." Minho pressed the firing controls. The Defiant's quantum weapons were unlike anything the Vorath had encountered. They did not fire energy beams or missiles. Instead, they targeted the quantum bonds that held matter together at the molecular level. A Vorath battleship suddenly shuddered. Its hull began to come apart, not from external damage, but from inside. The molecular bonds that gave the metal strength simply stopped working. The ship tore itself into pieces, its own structural stress ripping it apart. Another ship died, then another. The Defiant moved through the Vorath formation like a ghost, untouchable and deadly. Vorath ships tried to track it, tried to predict its movements, but the slip drive made that impossible. "Impossible!" Vrexis roared. 100 ships! How are they losing to one tiny vessel?" 5 minutes into the battle, 20 Vorath ships were destroyed. 10 minutes in, 50 were gone. The remaining Vorath ships broke formation, trying to escape, but the Defiant hunted them down one by one. 15 minutes after the first shot was fired, all 100 Vorath battleships were debris floating in space. The Defiant hung motionless in the middle of the wreckage, not a single scratch on its hull. On the bridge, the crew sat in stunned silence. They had survived. More than survived. They had won. "Damage report," Taeyang said, trying to keep his voice steady. "No damage," Hana reported. "The slip drive worked perfectly. We didn't get hit once." "Weapons at 90% capacity," Minho added. "We barely used any power." Sora was studying her sensors. "Captain, the Vorath fleet is not moving. I think we shocked them." She was right. Aboard the Annihilator, chaos reigned. Officers shouted reports. Alarms blared. Vrexus stood frozen, unable to believe what he had just witnessed. "Replay the battle," he commanded. "Show me what happened." The tactical display showed the fight again. 100 of his ships destroyed by a single human vessel in 15 minutes. His officers watched in silence. Some of them looked afraid. That made Vrexus angry. Fear was for lesser species, not for the Vorath. "Deploy 500 ships," he ordered. "Destroy that vessel now." "Commander," his tactical officer said hesitantly, "perhaps we should analyze their technology first, understand what they are doing." "I said deploy 500 ships!" Vrexus slammed his fist on the armrest of his throne. "They were lucky. They caught us by surprise. 500 ships will crush them." The Vorath fleet moved again. 500 battleships broke from the main formation, weapons already charging. They surrounded the Defiant from all directions, creating a sphere of firepower with no escape. Taeyang saw them coming. "They're sending more. A lot more." "We are completely surrounded," Minho said. "Every direction is covered." Hana checked her instruments. "The slip drive needs 3 minutes to cool down. We can't use it yet." "Then we fight without it," Taeyang said. "All power to shields. Minho, target the nearest ships. We take them down before they can form up properly." The Defiant spun and accelerated. Its shields glowed as Vorath weapons fire hammered against them, but human shield technology was good. The shields held. Minho fired the quantum weapons in rapid sequence. Vorath ships began dying again, their hulls coming apart. The Defiant moved through the enemy formation, too fast and too small for the Vorath ships to track effectively. 3 minutes are up," Hana announced. "Slip drive ready." "Activate it," Taeyang ordered. The Defiant phased again. Now it was truly untouchable. It moved through the Vorath formation like a shark through a school of fish. Every shot it fired destroyed a target. Every enemy shot passed through empty space. Vrexus watched his ships die. 500 became 400, then 300. He could not understand what he was seeing. The humans had technology that should not exist. They were doing things that violated every known law of warfare. "All ships," he broadcast to his entire fleet, "converge on the human vessel, 5,000 ships. Now!" But even as he gave the order, he felt something he had not felt in centuries. Doubt. What if 5,000 ships were not enough? What if the humans destroyed those too? On the Defiant, Sora looked up from her sensors. "Captain, 5,000 ships are moving to engage. The whole fleet is advancing." Taeyang nodded slowly. This was it. The real battle was about to begin. They had proven they could win against hundreds. But could they win against thousands? He looked at his crew. They were tired but determined. They had done the impossible once. Maybe they could do it again. "All hands, prepare for full combat," he said. "This is going to get rough." The Defiant turned to face the approaching fleet. Behind it floated the wreckage of 600 Vorath ships. Ahead lay 49,000 more. The galaxy watched and waited to see if the impossible could happen twice. 5,000 Vorath warships moved toward the Defiant like an avalanche of metal and fire. Their weapons created a wall of energy that lit up the darkness of space. Any normal ship would have been vaporized instantly. The Defiant was not a normal ship. "Slip drive to maximum," Taeyang commanded. Hana, I need everything you can give me. Hana's fingers danced across her control panel, pushing it to 120%. I don't know how long the systems can handle this. They just need to hold long enough, Taeyang said. The Defiant phased in and out of reality so fast it became almost invisible. It appeared in one location, fired its quantum weapons, then vanished before the Vorath could return fire. It reappeared kilometers away, struck again, and vanished once more. Vorath ships exploded in silent fury. Their commanders tried everything. They fired randomly, hoping to hit the Defiant by chance. They used wide-area weapons that covered huge sections of space. They tried to predict where the human ship would appear next. Nothing worked. Minho worked his weapons console with intense focus. Every shot had to count. The quantum weapons were powerful, but they drew enormous energy. He chose targets carefully, focusing on the largest ships first. Their formation is breaking down, Sora reported. They're getting in each other's way. Some of them are hitting their own ships with weapons fire. It was true. The Vorath had so many ships in such a small area that they could barely maneuver. When they fired at the Defiant and missed, their weapons often struck friendly vessels instead. The humans' greatest advantage was not just their technology, it was the enemy's own numbers working against them. Vrexis watched the battle from his command throne with growing rage. His fleet was the most powerful military force in the galaxy. They had destroyed civilizations, they had burned worlds, and now they were being made to look like fools by one small ship. "Send 10,000 vessels," he ordered. "I want that human ship buried under so much firepower that not even atoms remain." "Commander," his tactical officer said carefully, "if we send more ships, they will just get in the way of each other. Perhaps a different strategy." "I did not ask for your opinion," Vrexis roared. "Send 10,000 ships now." The officer obeyed. Another wave of Vorath warships surged forward. Now 15,000 vessels crowded the battlefield, all trying to destroy one enemy. The Defiant moved through them like wind through trees. Untouchable, unstoppable. Taeyang gripped the arms of his captain's chair. The battle had been raging for over an hour. His crew was exhausted. The ship's systems were overheating, but they were still alive, and the Vorath were still dying. "How many have we destroyed?" he asked. Sora checked her readouts. 4,312 confirmed kills. Minho let out a breathless laugh. "We've destroyed more than 4,000 ships? That's insane." "It's working," Hana said. "The slip drive is holding. Barely, but it's holding." A warning alarm sounded. Red lights flashed on Hana's console. "What is it?" Taeyang asked. "The slip drive is overheating," Hana said, her voice tight. "If we keep using it at this level, it's going to burn out. Maybe explode." "How long can we maintain current operations?" 20 minutes, maybe 30 if we're lucky." Taeyang did quick calculations in his head. They had destroyed over 4,000 ships in an hour. At that rate, they could destroy another 1,000 or two before the slip drive failed, but that would still leave over 40,000 enemy vessels. "We need a better plan," he said. "Sora, you said their fleet is networked together. Can we exploit that?" Sora had been thinking about this problem since the battle started. "Yes, every Vorath ship is connected through a quantum communication network. It allows them to coordinate perfectly, share targeting data, and distribute power. The network hub is on Vrexis's flagship, the Annihilator. Can we shut it down?" "Better," Sora said, her eyes lighting up. "I can create a virus, a quantum virus that would cascade through their entire network. If we upload it to the main hub, it would spread to every ship in the fleet simultaneously." "What would the virus do?" Minho asked. "It would overload their reactor control systems," Sora explained. "Make all their reactors go critical at the same time. Every ship in the fleet would explode." The bridge went silent. It was a terrible weapon. 50,000 ships, millions of Vorath crew members, all dead in an instant. But those millions had come to Earth to kill billions. "How do we upload the virus?" Taeyang asked quietly. "We need direct access to the Annihilator's network hub," Sora said. "We'd have to get close. Very close. Within a few hundred meters." Minho pulled up a tactical display. The Annihilator sat at the center of the Vorath fleet, protected by thousands of ships. Getting close to it would mean fighting through the entire enemy force. "That's a suicide run," he said. "It's our only chance to end this," Taeyang said. "If we keep fighting like this, we'll destroy thousands more ships, but eventually the slip drive will fail, then they'll destroy us. This virus is the only way to win." Hana looked at her engine readouts. "If we're going to do this, we need to do it now, before the slip drive burns out." Taeyang stood from his chair. He walked to the view screen and looked at the Vorath fleet. So many ships, so many lives. But Earth had billions of lives too. Lives that depended on the Defiant. "Sora, prepare the virus," he ordered. "Hana, plot a course to the Annihilator. Minho, ready all weapons. We're going straight through the middle of their fleet." His crew stared at him. Going through the middle of 50,000 warships was madness. But it was also the last thing the Vorath would expect. "Captain," Minho said, "they'll throw everything they have at us." "I'm counting on it," Taeyang said. "If they focus all their attention on us, they'll make mistakes. Sora, how long do you need to upload the virus once we reach the Annihilator?" 30 seconds of direct connection," she said. 30 seconds. Taeyang smiled grimly. "We can stay alive for 30 seconds. We've done harder things in the last hour." He returned to his chair and pressed the ship-wide communication button. "All hands, this is the captain. We're about to attempt something very dangerous. We're going to punch through the enemy fleet and reach their command ship. Once there, we'll upload a weapon that will destroy their entire fleet. If it works, we win. If it fails, well, it's been an honor serving with all of you." He released the button and looked at his bridge crew. "Ready?" One by one, they nodded. "Take us in," Taeyang ordered. The Defiant turned toward the heart of the Vorath fleet. The slip drive engaged at maximum power. The ship became a blur of phasing reality, moving faster than it had moved before. Vorath ships tried to block its path. The Defiant went through them, around them, sometimes literally through them, as it phased in and out of solid matter. Quantum weapons fired continuously, clearing a path. Vrexus saw the human ship heading directly toward him. For a moment, he could not believe it. They were coming for his flagship, the arrogance, the stupidity. "All ships, focus fire on that vessel," he commanded. "Protect the Annihilator at all costs." Thousands of Vorath warships opened fire at once. Space itself seemed to burn with the intensity of their weapons. Energy enough to destroy planets focused on one small ship. The Defiant flew through the storm. Its shields sparked and flared. Hana pushed the slip drive beyond safe limits. Warning alarms screamed throughout the ship. "Shields at 40%, Minho shouted over the noise. 20%! 10! Shields failing!" An energy beam clipped the Defiant's hull. Armor plating vaporized. Another beam struck the starboard side. The ship shuddered violently. "Keep going," Taeyang commanded. "We're almost there." Through the wall of enemy fire, through the chaos and destruction, the Defiant emerged. Directly ahead, less than 500 meters away, was the Annihilator. Vrexus saw the human ship appear in front of his view screen. His eyes widened in shock. "Fire all weapons!" he screamed. "Destroy them now!" But Sora was faster. Her fingers flew across her console, launching the quantum virus straight into the Annihilator's network hub. The virus entered the Vorath system. It spread at the speed of light through the quantum network, connecting every ship in the fleet. "Upload complete," Sora said. "The virus is active." "Get us out of here," Taeyang ordered. The Defiant turned and accelerated away from the Annihilator as fast as its damaged engines could manage. Behind them, Vrexus stared at his control panels as they went crazy. Error messages flooded every screen. The reactor temperature began rising, not just on his ship, on every ship in the fleet. He finally understood what the humans had done. "No," he whispered. The quantum virus moved through the Vorath network like lightning through metal. Every ship connected to the system received it simultaneously. Within seconds, it had infected the entire Obsidian fleet. On 49,688 warships, the same thing began happening. Reactor control systems stopped responding, safety protocols shut down, temperature regulators failed. Deep in the heart of each vessel, reactors designed to power weapons capable of destroying worlds began to go critical. Vrexus tried desperately to disconnect his ship from the network. His fingers stabbed at controls that no longer worked. Around him, Vorath officers shouted in panic. Some tried to manually shut down the reactor. Others attempted to evacuate. It was too late. The virus had complete control. "Commander!" his tactical officer screamed. "The reactor core is reaching critical mass. We have maybe 2 minutes before—" "I know!" Vrexus roared. He stood from his throne, his hands clenched into fists. 1,000 years of victory, ended by humans, by primitives who should have been crushed in minutes. He looked at his view screen. The human ship was fleeing, damaged and trailing debris. It was barely holding together. He could have laughed at the irony. They had won the battle, but might still die from their wounds. "Hail the human vessel," he ordered. His communication officer looked at him in shock. "Commander? Do it!" The Defiant was 3,000 kilometers from the Annihilator when Taeyang received the incoming message. "Sir, the Vorath flagship is trying to contact us." Taeyang was surprised, but he nodded. "Put them through." Vrexus's face appeared on the screen. The Vorath commander looked angry, but there was something else in his eyes now. Respect, perhaps, or simply the knowledge of defeat. "Human captain," Vrexus said, "you have won. My fleet is dying. In minutes, every ship will explode." "I know," Taeyang said simply. "I offer you one last chance," Vrexus continued. "Give me the code to stop the virus. In exchange, I will order my ships to retreat from your system. Earth will be spared." Taeyang studied the Vorath commander. "And if I refuse?" "Then 50,000 ships will die here today," Vrexus said. "Millions of Vorath lives lost. But the Empire has millions more ships. Eventually, they will return to Earth. They will destroy your world as punishment for this. Your people will be hunted across the stars." It was a threat, but also the truth. Vrexus was offering a way out. Taeyang could save millions of lives with a single command. But he remembered why this battle was being fought. The Vorath had come to enslave humanity. If they left now, they would rebuild and return. And next time, Earth might not be lucky. "No," Taeyang said quietly. Vrexus's eyes widened. "You would doom millions?" "You doomed them when you brought them here to destroy my world," Taeyang replied. "You chose this fight. You chose to threaten billions of humans. Now you face the consequences." "You think you are heroes?" Vrexus spat. "You are just primitives with dangerous toys. The Empire will crush you for this, I promise you that." "Maybe," Taeyang said, "but you won't be there to see it." He cut the connection. On the bridge, his crew sat in silence. Minho looked pale. Even Hana seemed shaken. They had just sentenced millions to death. "Did we do the right thing?" Sora asked quietly. Taeyang wanted to say yes. He wanted to be certain. But the truth was, he did not know. War was not about right and wrong. It was about survival. And humanity needed to survive. "We did what we had to do," he said finally. "Now we need to get clear of the explosion. Hana, how are the engines?" "Barely functional," she reported. "The slip drive is completely burned out. We're running on conventional thrusters only. Maximum speed is 1/10 what we need to get to safe distance." Minho checked his tactical display. The Vorath reactors will go critical in 90 seconds. The explosion will create a shock wave that will reach us in about 2 minutes. We can't outrun it, Taeyang said. It was a simple fact. The Defiant had fought through an entire fleet, survived the impossible, and now it would die from its own victory. We could use the escape pods, Minho suggested. The crew could evacuate. The pods might survive the shockwave. No, Hana said suddenly. She was staring at her engineering console, her mind working frantically. There's another way. The slip drive is burned out, but the core is still intact. If I reroute all remaining power to it, I might be able to create one last phase shift. Just enough to put us slightly out of sync with normal space when the shockwave hits. Might? Taeyang asked. 60% chance of success, Hana said. 40% chance the ship tears apart from the stress. Better odds than 0, Minho said. Taeyang made his decision. Do it. Everyone, brace for impact. Hana's fingers flew across her controls. She diverted power from life support, weapons, shields, everything. The entire ship went dark except for emergency lights. The slip drive core began to glow with energy it was never designed to hold. On the Annihilator, Vrexis sat on his throne and watched the countdown on his screen. 30 seconds until reactor failure. Around him, his crew had abandoned their posts. Some were crying. Some were praying to gods the Vorath no longer believed in. Vrexis remained still. He had commanded this fleet for 200 years. He would die with it. 10 seconds. 9. 8. In the engine room of the Defiant, Hana watched her own countdown. The slip drive was ready. She had one shot at this. If she activated it too early, it would fail. Too late, and they would all die. 3 seconds until the Vorath reactors exploded. 2 seconds until she needed to activate the slip drive. She waited. Every instinct screamed to push the button now, but she held steady. On every Vorath ship, reactor cores reached critical mass simultaneously. Hana pressed the button. The slip drive activated. The Defiant phased out of normal space just as 50,000 Vorath reactors exploded at once. The explosion was beyond imagination. It was a new sun being born and dying in the same instant. Energy equal to 1 billion nuclear weapons erupted in a sphere of annihilation. The shockwave expanded at near light speed, vaporizing everything in its path. The Defiant hung in its phase-shifted state, existing between moments of time. The shockwave passed through normal space where the ship should have been. The Defiant shuddered violently. Hull plates groaned. Metal screamed. Inside the ship, the crew was thrown from their seats. Taeyang hit the deck hard. Emergency systems failed. The lights went out completely. For a moment, there was only darkness and the terrible sound of the ship tearing itself apart. Then silence. Taeyang opened his eyes. Emergency lights flickered back on. He was alive. He looked around the bridge. His crew was picking themselves up, checking for injuries. "Status report," he managed to say. "We're alive," Hana's voice came through the communication system. "I don't know how, but we're alive. The slip drive is completely destroyed. Life support is failing. We're drifting." "The Vorath fleet?" Taeyang asked. Sora checked her sensors. What she saw made her go quiet for a long moment. "Gone," she finally said. "All of them. There's nothing left but debris. The entire Obsidian fleet has been destroyed." Taeyang stood slowly. Through the view screen, he could see the aftermath. Where 50,000 ships had been, there was now only an expanding cloud of glowing gas and scattered metal. The most powerful fleet in the galaxy had been erased from existence. The Defiant had won. But the ship was dying. Life support was failing. Engines were dead. They were drifting in space with no way to get home. "Send a distress signal to Earth," Taeyang ordered. "Tell them we succeeded. The fleet is destroyed." "Captain," Minho said, "will Earth be able to reach us in time?" Taeyang looked at his damaged ship and his exhausted crew. They had accomplished the impossible. One ship against 50,000. And they had won. "I don't know," he said honestly. "But we did our job. Earth is safe. That's what matters." He sat back in his captain's chair and waited to see if rescue would come before the darkness took them. The Defiant drifted through space, dark and silent. Inside the ship, the temperature was dropping. Life support was running on emergency reserves that would last maybe 6 more hours. The crew gathered in the main corridor, wrapped in thermal blankets, their breath visible in the cold air. Taiyang sat with his back against a wall, Hana on one side and Minho on the other. Sora was nearby, still working on her data tablet even though there was no power to send signals. "Do you think Earth received our message?" Minho asked quietly. "The distress beacon launched before we lost all power," Sora said. "Whether anyone heard it is another question." "They heard it," Taiyang said. He had to believe that. The alternative was that they would die out here, frozen in the darkness, their victory unknown. Hours passed. The cold grew worse. Some of the crew fell asleep despite the temperature. Others talked quietly, sharing stories, saying things they had never said before. When facing death, people stopped holding back. Hana leaned against Taiyang's shoulder. "I'm sorry the slip drive failed," she said. "I should have built better redundancies." "You saved our lives with that drive," Taiyang told her. "We would have died 100 times over without it. You have nothing to apologize for." "We destroyed 50,000 ships," Minho said, his voice full of wonder. 247 people against an empire, and we won." "We got lucky," Taeyang said. "No," Sora disagreed. "Luck was part of it, but so was skill, and courage, and technology they never expected. We won because we were better than them." Taeyang wanted to argue, but he was too tired. Maybe she was right. Maybe humanity had proven something important today. The ship's emergency lights began to flicker. Power was running out. Then, suddenly, new lights appeared outside the viewports. Bright lights. Ship lights. "Contact!" someone shouted. "Multiple ships approaching!" The crew rushed to the viewports. Through the damaged hull sections, they could see vessels approaching. Human vessels. Earth had sent rescue ships. Taiyang felt relief wash over him. They were going to live. The rescue took 2 hours. Medical teams came aboard first, treating injuries and cold exposure. Then engineering crews began emergency repairs to get life support working. Admiral Lee himself arrived on a transport shuttle. The old admiral found Taiyang on the bridge, still sitting in his captain's chair. Lee looked at the damaged ship, at the exhausted crew, and at the young captain who had done the impossible. "Captain Yoon," Lee said, "your distress signal reached us 4 hours ago. We came as fast as we could. I see you destroyed the Vorath fleet." "Yes, sir," Taeyang replied. "All 50,000 ships. The threat is eliminated." Lee nodded slowly. "The whole galaxy saw it. The Vorath were broadcasting the battle, remember? Every species with a radio telescope watched one human ship destroy the Empire's most powerful fleet. The galaxy knows what happened here." "What happens now?" Taeyang asked. "Now everything changes," Lee said. He was right. In the days that followed, the galaxy shook with the news. The Vorath Empire, which had ruled unchallenged for 10,000 years, had been humiliated by a species they considered primitive. Their most feared fleet, led by their most decorated commander, had been completely destroyed. On the Vorath homeworld, the Emperor summoned his military advisors. They expected him to order revenge. Instead, he surprised them. "We underestimated the humans," the Emperor said. "That was our mistake. High Commander Vrexus thought he could crush them easily. He died for that arrogance. We will not make the same error." "Should we send another fleet?" one advisor asked. "A larger one?" "No," the Emperor said. "We will send an ambassador. If the humans can do this with one ship, imagine what they could do with 100 or 1,000. We will negotiate. We will learn. And perhaps we will find a way to coexist. It was a stunning reversal. For the first time in millennia, the Vorath Empire sought peace instead of conquest. Other species took notice. On worlds that had been conquered by the Vorath, rebellions began. If humans could defy the Empire and win, why couldn't they? The news of the Defiant's victory spread like fire across the galaxy, igniting hope in the hearts of billions who had lived under Vorath rule. On Earth, humanity began preparing for the future. The Defiant had bought them time, but they knew the peace might not last. They needed more ships, better ships. Hannah Park led the effort to build a new fleet. Using what they had learned from the Defiant, her teams began constructing 30 new warships. Each one incorporated the slip drive technology and quantum weapons. Each one was designed to fight against impossible odds. Minho became an instructor, training new weapons officers on the systems he had mastered in battle. His students studied the recordings of the Defiant's fight, learning from every decision he had made. Sora continued her research into quantum technology. She knew the virus she had created was devastating, but it was also a one-time weapon. The Vorath would be prepared for it next time. She needed to stay ahead. And Taeyong? He was promoted to admiral and given command of Earth's new defense fleet. But he insisted on one thing. When the fleet was ready, his flagship would be the rebuilt Defiant. The ship had been towed back to Earth orbit and placed in the largest shipyard humanity had ever built. Engineering teams swarmed over it, repairing damage, upgrading systems, making it stronger than before. 6 months after the battle, Taeyang stood in the shipyard observation deck, watching the work. Admiral Lee joined him. "The Vorath ambassador arrives tomorrow," Lee said. "The Emperor is offering a peace treaty, trade agreements, cultural exchange. He wants to avoid another war." "Do you trust him?" Taeyang asked. "No," Lee said honestly. "But I trust our ability to defend ourselves. Because of what you did out there, the galaxy knows humanity is not weak. We're not easy prey. That's worth more than any treaty." Taeyang looked at the Defiant, the ship that had changed everything, the ship that had proven one crucial truth. Humanity would not go quietly into the dark. "The new ships," he said. "When will they be ready?" "Another year for the first batch of 10, Lee replied. 5 years for all 30. We're building as fast as we can." "And other species? Are any of them reaching out to us?" Lee smiled. "Dozens. They want to trade. They want alliances. Some of them want to buy our technology, though we're not selling the military applications. Humanity went from being unknown to being one of the most important species in the galaxy. All because of one battle." "It wasn't just me," Taeyong said. "It was the crew, Hana's engineering, Minho's weapons work, Sora's virus. We all did it together." "I know," Lee said. "That's what makes it more impressive. 247 people changed the fate of the galaxy. That's the real story here." They stood in silence, watching the Defiant being rebuilt. The ship that had faced impossible odds and won. The ship that had shown the galaxy what humanity was capable of when pushed to the edge. On the Vorath homeworld, in a secure facility, military scientists studied the battle recordings. They analyzed every move the Defiant had made, trying to understand the slip drive technology, trying to figure out how to counter it. But they were already behind. Human innovation moved faster than Vorath study. By the time the Empire understood yesterday's technology, humanity would have tomorrow's. That was the real lesson of the battle. Not that humans had better weapons or ships, but that humans never stopped improving, never stopped learning, never stopped pushing forward. The Vorath had ruled for 10,000 years with the same tactics, the same technology, the same assumptions. They had become comfortable, arrogant. Humanity had been in space for less than a century, but they brought something the old empire had lost: the hunger to survive and thrive against any odds. As Taiyang watched the Defiant being repaired, he thought about the future. The Vorath might come again. Other threats might emerge. The galaxy was dangerous, and humanity was still new to it. But they had proven something important. They had proven they belonged here. They had proven they could fight. They had proven they could win. One ship had destroyed a fleet. One crew had changed history. One battle had announced to the galaxy that humanity had arrived, and they would not be ignored. The stars belonged to everyone now, and humanity was ready to take its place among them. Above Earth, the Defiant gleamed in the light of the sun, being rebuilt for whatever challenges lay ahead. It was no longer just a ship. It was a symbol, a promise. Humanity would endure, humanity would fight, and when threatened, humanity would remind the galaxy why it was dangerous to underestimate a species that refused to accept defeat. The age of human expansion had begun, and it had started with 247 brave souls who looked at impossible odds and decided to try anyway. The end of one story. The beginning of another.